that we're happy with, can we still claim unemployment? Can we still, so, say I only work 3 days? I mean, this is COVID. I don't know about anybody else here, but I'm way behind the 8 ball. So if we don't work 2 days and we work 3, can we still, even though we're a 1099 and we're able to work, can we still claim unemployment? Paul, you frozen. There you go.
Yeah, that's a great question. Because that's a question I'm getting a lot. If I could take one step back quickly, just to ask kind of by show of hands of everybody on the video, how many folks here, because I know the last time we spoke, the big challenge was getting through to unemployment to be even to be able to get benefits in the first place. By show of hands, how many people have now finally gotten through the process and have been collecting their unemployment? Okay, great. Looks like most people. So one of the challenges that you all know the state had was coming up with a system to just process all of the claims they were having. It was an incredible volume of claims that were coming in. I think it's safe to say, based on what my company's been seeing with our clients, what we're hearing from folks that we know, I think at this point the state is mostly caught up in terms of processing claims and having a process in place to pay out benefits, get people to utilize the website. I think they went through and hired a bunch of new people as well. So we're sort of past the point of people scrambling to get their initial unemployment benefits. And now we're at the point where, again, as these phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, we start getting into reopening. Now we're getting more questions, and I'm getting more questions from people who are asking exactly what Donna brought up. Yeah. What about partial unemployments as we're able to open back up, as we're able to go back to work, as we're able to start showing houses again, seeing clients, being more active with the marketing. So eligible to collect partial unemployment benefits if you work less than 4 days per week and if you earn less than $504 per week. So the way that it works, essentially, if you are working 1 day per week, you can collect up to 75. If you're working 2 days a week, you can collect 50% of your benefits. And if you're working 2 days a week, you can collect. But again, let me repeat the point. The $600 unemployment is for everybody as long as you are collecting, whether you're collecting full benefits or partial benefits because you're working part-time. The $600 is there through the end of July. The other benefits, you have 39 weeks of eligibility. So there's a 39-week period where you can those bits, including the partial benefits. So again, one of the questions I see in the chat here, I was told by NYSAR that as long as your business is still impacted, you can, provided that you are only working part-time, you are eligible to collect partial unemployment benefits. So even if you're reopened, if you are still only able to work a certain number of days per week, you'll still be eligible to collect benefits. So again, let me just clarify. The pandemic unemployment compensation, $600 per week, that expires at the end of July. Now you earn that money whether or not you qualify for full or partial unemployment benefits. That's the pandemic unemployment assistance, the PUA. Pandemic unemployment assistance is essentially traditional unemployment benefits. So you can continue to collect traditional unemployment benefits for a 39-week period, starting from when you first claimed. So again, going back to the questions that are coming up. Can you collect partial unemployment benefits? Yes. If you are working less than 4 days a week, you may be eligible to collect partial benefits. You work 1 day a week, you'll be able to collect 75% of your benefits. If you work 2 days per week, you can collect 50% of your benefits. 3 days per week, 75% of the benefits. And if you are only collecting 75% of your traditional unemployment benefits, you'll still be eligible for the $600 per week through the end of July. So now let me turn over to some of the questions. And I see one here that is a great question that I get emailed to me all the time. What if I have a closing that's from months ago, and then I get the paycheck, or the commission check rather, this week? So when you certify for weekly benefits, right, that's basically what we're talking about here. One of the questions that you must answer is, excluding earnings from self-employment, do you earn more than $504 in the week? What they're really talking about is, did you do any work this week? So if you do no work this week, but you received a commission check for a closing back in February, and you're just getting the check now, then no, that will not affect your unemployment. You will still be eligible to collect benefits for this week. Another question. So if I show one house and it takes a half hour once a week, is that considered a work day? I want to be very careful how I answer this. New York State, according to the rules, says any work that is done to further the business counts as a work day. You are the one who is telling them what amount of work you did that week. I don't know that they're going to have the capacity, but it is up to you to report as to what to report. Again, the unemployment system was set up in an era before we had things like remote working, before we had things like email, where if I check my email, well, does that work? None of that was anticipated by our unemployment system. So they're very concerned with things like hours worked. They're very concerned with things like, well, what work did you do? I encourage you to concentrate as much work as you can into 1 or 2 days if you're able to. But again, you need to sort of figure out what you want to report as work when you certify each week. Another great question. At what point do you say you're back to work? I would encourage you during this period, continue to certify every week for benefits, because there may be a week where you say, I worked 4 days a week, and this week I was back to maybe close to approaching full time, but maybe next week you're not. At the end of the day, New York State is going to determine whether or not you're eligible for benefits each week. So I would say go through the certification process every week, because there may be weeks where you don't qualify for benefit. The following week you might qualify for benefits. So continue going through that process. Again, you have 39 weeks to claim benefits. So if you don't claim benefits this week, but you claim benefits next week, this week doesn't count towards your 39 weeks. The following week, if you collect, does count towards your 39 weeks. No, it is not 39 continuous weeks. It is 39 cumulative weeks through December 31. So again, another question here. You claimed that you are not eligible for benefits twice because you received commission checks. So if you are not earning the pandemic unemployment assistance, you will not get the $600 for that week. You will only get the $600 for the weeks that you qualify for benefits.
Yeah, so I think you got, Jim Knight had asked at 11:11, what if you have other part-time jobs? Is it a total of dollars, and what is the total?
Sure. So if you are working multiple jobs, the question is still, how many days a week do you work, and are you earning more than $504 per week? So if you are working another job but have sort of lost work on the real estate side as a result of COVID, if that other job if you're working at 4 or more days a week or earning more than $500 in a week, you're likely not going to be eligible for unemployment benefits.
Hopefully that answered Jim's question. If I get a signed, I don't know if this question was asked or answered. If I got, this is from Trina, if I get a signed contract or more than 1 in 1 week, is that when I claim that I have earned more than $504 that week and not when I receive the check itself?
So again, I guess the question is, what is the commissionable event in that sense? Do you get paid on the closing? Do you get paid on, I guess that's the big question. So let me pull this up. So if the commission was earned while you were employed but paid out afterwards, it does not count against your ability to collect. And if you do no work during the week, then you can collect benefits. So again, some of it's going to depend on the commission plan and when the commission is earned. But generally speaking, again, if you're working full-time in February and you're just getting the check this week, then you wouldn't necessarily need to claim that this week as earnings.
So you're claiming it
because
yeah. So you're claiming it on the week you sign the contract and close the deal, not when the check is received. Is that? I think that's what I think people are looking for.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. Yep.
Good enough. All right, and a lot of people have asked that similar question, right? Like what happens if I, work this week, but I get my check a month later? Which week am I claiming and not claiming? So I think that answers that question, right? All right, so let me scroll down because everything was more about the audio and not hearing you. So from Elizabeth asks, is there anyone we can call to get clarification on PUA?
Sure. So you can contact the state. I do think that they're getting a little bit better at getting the claims under control. It used to be very difficult to get through to that system. If you want to contact New York State right now, let me see if I can pull up the exact phone number for you. Okay. The number to file a claim. So if you're talking about, specifically eligibility to file a claim, it's 888-209-8124.
I just put that number in the chat, everyone, too. So if you scroll down to the bottom of the chat, if you have access to it, you'll see the number there. Sue asked, being able to work, if we still cannot find clients, do we still apply for 100%?
Again, so it comes back to the days that you are working. So if you are spending, 1 day a week working, then you would still apply because then you're actually actively looking for clients, would be my advice in that case. Spend a lot of time looking, a lot of time working, and then you can claim for 75% of your benefits. That would be my advice in that situation.
Excellent. All right. Meredith Levine asks, I certified and claimed for unemployment for 7 weeks. Some weeks I worked 1 day and claimed as such. I received a ton of mail and every statement has been incorrect and dated months back. My online account claims I registered for a week before I even claimed unemployment. I was then told I was eligible for PUA and submitted documentation for that. I keep receiving online surveys that are incorrect as well. I've yet to receive any money and cannot get through online or by phone. Any suggestions?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a tough one. Again, I know things are slowing down a little bit over there. The other thing you might consider doing is contacting a local Department of Labor office. I believe that there are Department of Labor offices in Buffalo. If you try that, you may be able to have a little bit better luck getting through to an actual person. But yeah, that's a tough situation when you can't get through, and certainly frustrating when the information is incorrect.
Understood.
Pete, I've got a kind of a follow-up question to his previous one from Brenda. It says, well, since any deal can fall and we never get paid, how would that work if we say we have earned income this week on something we sold? It goes under contract, but they actually don't get paid. So I guess the best way to say it, you have a contract on, in May 1st, and then it's supposed to close June 1st, but in between, the deal falls through. So I think I understood you say that you probably should really look at when you would normally get paid. Would that be correct?
So what it becomes is, what is the commissionable event as far as reporting the income? So if the closing is, so you sign the contract May 1st, and it's supposed to close on June 1st, but falls through, then I wouldn't claim the income until it has closed. So what is the commissionable event? Is it the closing or is it the signing of a contract? If it's the closing, then that would be the week that you would report the income.
And I think that's what most of the members would feel, and I think most of the brokers would agree that it's when it closes is when the money is actually transferred. Just wanted to make sure that was clear for everybody.
Yeah, and again, so if a deal falls through, then whatever, let's say you spent 4 hours the week you signed the contract, just for argument's sake, you would report that day as a day worked, but you haven't actually earned any income on that day yet. And you may not, again, if the deal falls through, but you've still done work on that day.
Thank you.
All right. So I think this may have been answered, but I'll ask it anyway. Can we still collect after deemed essential in phase 2? I believe it's still true if you're being, if COVID is still affecting your business, right?
Yes. So let me put it this way. The phases, phase 1, phase 2, that will not impact unemployment, because if, let's say the state says, great, you can start, opening up again. But if customers and buyers and sellers aren't active because they're scared, then you can't work, even if the state says you're open. So you can continue to collect and apply for unemployment benefits regardless of whether or not we're in phase 1 or phase 2.
Cool. Thank you. Carol Lee asked, sorry, so we do not get $600 if we claim we work 4 days, but if we only work 3 days and get partial, we will still get the $600? We will get the $600?
Yes, that is correct. So if you collect any benefits, whether it's partial or full, you will get the $600 for that week. If you do not collect benefits that week, you will not get the $600.
If I collect Social Security and work as a real estate agent, can I collect unemployment?
Yes. Basically, regardless of whether you collect Social Security or, say, a pension from a previous job, that sort of thing, as long as you are what we call ready, willing, and able to work and cannot find employment due to COVID, you are eligible to collect unemployment insurance.
Awesome. Kim Passerby asks, at the unemployment webinar here a month ago or so, it was said we must check yes for earning a commission check over $504, but now we're hearing no.
Sure. So again, I want to be careful because I think there's a lot of room to misinterpret this. That commission check, it would be reported the week that the commission becomes earned. So again, if we're talking about the closing, what is the commissionable event? That would be the week that you would mark down those benefits. And again, if you're getting the check that week, maybe you're not eligible that week for unemployment, but you may be eligible the following week.
Okay. Because I received commission checks from past sales, I thought I had to claim it that week. Can that be edited? So if you went backward, is there a way to edit those things?
What you could potentially do in that case, and let me, there is a claimant handbook that everybody receives, I think, once they go through the application process. But basically, there's a page in there about, there's a form to challenge either what your earnings were a particular week. There are some forms at the back of that claimant handbook that you can do that if you want to go back. It's not a guarantee that you'll receive the funds, but there is a process for it.
Okay. Karen Lafredo asks, can you collect unemployment and PPP?
So that's a really good question. Generally speaking, my understanding is no, you can't, because the PPP, again, my understanding is that PPP is intended to provide income support, payroll support for an organization or an individual in order to keep them out of the unemployment system. That's why there is a requirement for PPP forgiveness that you spend, and it was originally 75% of the funds on payroll. Now it's 60% of the funds. What I would say with any specific question you have on a PPP loan, check with your lender about the specific terms of the loan as far as forgiveness eligibility. But again, my general understanding was that the intention of the PPP money was to provide organizations a means to pay their employees during the pandemic without having those employees go through the unemployment system.
Understood. Ellen Carroll had more of a statement, and maybe it's a good message if you can't read the chat. I'll just read off. FYI, I waited almost 2 months for payment, and finally she called her East Aurora Assemblyman Dave DiPietro, and the woman on his office said she would send it to a separate contact for inquiries from government officials. I got the certification call the next day and was paid within 2 days. So maybe calling your local assemblyman may or may not work. It might have been just lucky. And Leslie Bardick asked, is there any way that you could put some of this stuff in writing? We are recording this, although we had some audio issues. Hopefully these answers and questions, I can put it on our BNAR YouTube channel, and you can go back and watch it or share it with others that may or may not. But I don't know if Paul will be able to put all this stuff into writing or not. But that's where we're going to, at least that's why we're trying to record it to save that time. Sue asked, big concern is even though able to work, if I don't have any clients, should I continue to file 100%?
Yep. I would say, again, until you're back up and running as you would normally, there's no reason not to continue to apply each week. And you may find, again, some weeks you're eligible, some weeks you may not be eligible. But you have 39 weeks of eligibility through the end of December. So if you are not working at your full schedule, and your full capacity, that's what unemployment insurance is intended to help supplement and bridge that period.
Kim Passerby also asked, what about the 3 work search requirements per week as per the Department of Labor? It says we all must do before hitting the certified claim button.
Yeah, so my understanding is New York State has essentially waived that work search requirement. So it may still be on the form, in the certification form, but that is not something that New York State is really looking at and going after at this point. They understand that the reason that there are so many unemployment claims is because we're in a pandemic. And the idea is that unlike other economic disruptions, the idea is that this one, we can sort of just reopen and restart. You may have heard the analogy that with the shutdowns, they were basically putting the economy on ice for a little while. And then the idea is that we can, again, reopen. And so the intention is that they understand, there are still jobs waiting for people. They just can't work right now. So the work search requirements have been waived by the state during this time. It may still be on the form, but they are not pursuing that from what we've been told.
Great, thank you. Carla Bow asks, I applied for PPP and unemployment at the beginning. PPP arrived and then unemployment finally started arriving. How do I reconcile this now?
Again, what I would do is I would speak to your lender on the PPP loan about the specific terms of how those funds were used. And again, all it may mean is that on the PPP loan, if you were receiving unemployment during that time, perhaps the loan just is no longer forgivable and you would have to pay it back at that low interest rate. But again, check with your lender for the specific terms of the PPP loan.
Understood. Elizabeth asked, she says, the unemployment called me and said I was rejected because I am an independent contractor. I have not heard from anyone about my PUA application. How do I find out if it's being processed?
So what I would do is, if you have a New York State ID, I would go to the Department of Labor website and log in. If you can't log in or create the ID, I would simply go through the process and try reapplying at this point, because you should be eligible for PUA as an independent contractor, again, provided you meet the working eligibility requirements. The whole idea of the PUA was to give access to unemployment benefits to individuals like independent contractors, individuals who may be self-employed, who traditionally have not had access to the unemployment benefit system.
Okay, great. Thank you. Chris Campanella asked, do we claim referrals such as referring a client to our rental department? Is it considered work? I would think so.
Yeah, again, so when you certify each week, you need to basically say to yourself, did I work 3 days this week? Did I work 2 days this week? And certify as you feel appropriate. Going by the letter of the law, that would count as work. But again, this law was not, when these laws were written, they were not necessarily anticipating the idea that, I quickly respond to an email to somebody and that's all I do. They weren't anticipating essentially, our modern world. So you need to make the determination how you feel comfortable, whether saying that's work or not. I would say very strictly speaking, that would be considered work.
Very good.
Pete, I was going to go back to one of the older questions.
Go for it.
And that's because it was back when it was a little more garbled.
Yeah.
And they're asking about taking a listing and how it will affect how you claim. So I think there's two parts of it. One is when you're actually creating a brand new listing, which I would assume would be considered work. But I believe the question was, well, what if the listing's active all along? It might be a 3-month listing. Is that considered working every day because it's 3 months?
Again, so this is something that was not anticipated or really thought about when they, again, for lack of a better word, slapped PUA together in the moment. They weren't thinking about these things. So what it really comes down to is, as you're thinking about it, what is the time that you are spending on that each day?
So basically counting and logging basically is what you're looking at right now. I always teach in my classes the old agenda book y'all had. You're gonna have to do it either on your phone or go back to the agenda book and write down what you're doing on a daily basis so that you can at least have some sort of accounting, right? Would that be a decent way of looking at it, Paul?
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. And again, you can sort of say to yourself, did I spend 10 minutes on this? Did I spend an hour on this? Did I spend 4 hours on this? And make whatever you think then is the appropriate report when you certify.
I see a couple of questions that we kind of covered, but there's one from Lynn Surfy that says, isn't the question asked by unemployment other than money from self-employment?
Yes. But again, with commission, what we're asking is, what was the commissionable event?
Okay.
I think that's what that's getting back to.
Okay. Stone asks, I am working at family business 5 days a week, less than 540 a week. That started May 4th. Can I collect from March 23rd, first day of COVID constraints, to May 3rd?
You could certainly apply for those benefits and for that period. I know because of sort of the rush that they had and when they were overwhelmed, they were saying, yes, we will pay back, backdate claims. So you can certainly apply. I can't guarantee that the claim will get paid, but they did say they would pay backdated claims if you meet the eligibility requirements for that period.
Understood. Right. Yeah, go ahead, Annette.
Another question, and I think he spoke about it, but just again to be clear, what constitutes a work day? 1 hour of work a day? Does it need to be a minimum number of hours?
There is no minimum. So again, this is where, as you certify each week, you need to say to yourself, did I work that day? And maybe you say to yourself, I checked my email, there was nothing there, I'm not counting that as work. You may say, I spent 20 minutes on the phone, I did a little research on something, answered a few emails. That would be a work day, according to New York State. But it's a determination you need to think about very carefully with the activity that you do each week, and then certify it where you feel comfortable. That's why, again, one of the things I say is any work that you can concentrate into 1 or 2 days, do that, because then you can say to yourself, yep, I spent, Tuesday and Thursday of this week, that's when I really sat down, I was in the home office and answering these questions, and maybe even put on, your email out of office that says, during COVID-19, I'm checking my emails, Thursdays and Tuesdays, or pick the days, and then you can apply for the partial benefits and the $600 that comes with those partial benefits through the end of July.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to read off a few comments. I would assume that when a deal sheet is entered, it would be a day of work, or maybe when the contract was signed. That was from Brett Llewellyn.
Yeah, those types of things. So again, anytime that you're doing work on behalf of yourself, New York State would say that is a day of work.
Yeah, and Derek says the same thing. So basically, if I get an accepted contract, that would be considered a day of work, but no money until I receive my commission.
Correct.
All right, cool. And I know Brenda asked about if the deal falls through. That was thankfully Annette was watching ahead of me because I'm trying to scroll through chronologically. So, Shirley, until it closes, Shirley says, until it closes, the commission's checking as your account, you have not earned it or have been paid. Linda Williams, can you go back to the original question? That was when the audio was breaking up. I wish I remember what the original question was. I'm sorry. But maybe we'll come back.
Sure. So I know
Go ahead.
at the beginning of the call, I was talking a little bit about how the $600 is set to expire at the end of July. You can still collect the PUA benefits for the 39 weeks of eligibility, but the $600 will end at the end of July, unless Congress takes additional action and the president signs it between now and then.
Excellent. Thank you.
So I don't know if that was the question, but
Yeah.
I do recall I was talking about that at the beginning.
The actual, Kelly Poulos asked, the actual question when we certify is, excluding self-employment, did you earn more than 504? I thought we were self-employed. If we are fully self-employed, wouldn't that answer be no or not applicable?
I would say, again, what's difficult about this situation is that the unemployment laws and the certification questions were written not anticipating this scenario. So I also know that there are some people who are self-employed, other people's working in real estate who may be considered an employee of a real estate firm, depending on New York state law. So it really will depend on your own individual situation. What is your status? If you are truly self-employed, then you would answer the question one way. If you are an employee, you would answer the question another way.
Right. Meredith Levine asked that long, I don't mean to say it convoluted, but that long situation with her unemployment, she couldn't get through. She also said, I've tried the local labor department as well, and they couldn't help me. Should I just give up?
I actually think somebody else brought up a good point. It probably is worth contacting your local legislative office, whether it's your state assembly person or your state senator. They do have constituent services that may be able to get through to someone at the labor department to, at the very least, get a call back.
Right. And that's what Shirley said. Try your state rep or senator's office, or if you can't get any results, it worked for her. So hopefully, Meredith, that'll help you get that answer you're looking for.
Yeah, again, not a guarantee, but something to try.
Yeah, and then Brenda and a few other, I think it was going back because they've asked like 34 questions beyond since we've been going through, so a lot of them are repeats. But Brenda had asked, or she's saying, well, the checks we earn now from 2 months ago is considered income, contradicting what you said earlier. And I know it's a convoluted situation too, because it's not fully written in stone, right? So
sure. Well, and the other thing, let me say this, and I've provided my email address in the past. So if anybody has specific questions about their situation, I'm happy to handle those one-on-one and respond to you, maybe with some more detail and figure out a little bit more about the specific situation. So I'm certainly willing to do that again if somebody's got specific questions. And I know Annette certainly has my email address, I think. So that would be something you could share. And if you want to put that in the chat, I'm happy to answer those questions as well, one-on-one as follow-up.
And I know that Annette probably can put an office manager message out. I think we did the last time when you offered that from the last time. So at least you can go to your office managers. But I think it looks like Annette's going to put it in the chat anyway. So everyone who can see the chat, grab that. And then look for your office manager update as well. That'll have that in case you want to share with others who are also going through this. I'm trying to... a lot of it's saying some of the same thing, the confusion from, like conflicting information of when you can file, when you get money. And I think you've gone over it a couple times. I know it's not simply a black and white answer, but there are, because each contract closes different days, when they get their money is different. But that's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of people who are just kind of saying that, but I think you've answered it a couple different times, and I guess that's it. So let me see if I can find a new one or something that's more open. When we can no longer claim work loss shortage from COVID, she kind of put them in numbers. So 1, when can we no longer claim work loss shortage from COVID? I'll let you answer that, and then I'll go to the next one, so that at least I don't.
Sure. So what I would say is, if you are back working more than 4 days a week and earning more than $504 per week, and I know the earnings isn't necessarily going to, the weekly earning is not going to line up with how you get paid in a lot of cases. But generally speaking, once you're back to normal, your eligibility may run out. But there's no, other than the 39 weeks running out, there's no official, you can no longer apply. It just becomes, you may no longer be eligible that week.
Perfect. The second question we already answered, but I'll just say it. What about the 3 work search requirements per week? As you said, it was kind of waived for this kind of situation. That doesn't apply to us. I heard the DOL can ask for work search history a year later retro, or does this not apply for us with 1099?
So again, generally speaking, the state is probably not going to be looking into any work search history during the COVID pandemic. There's a general understanding that this is not a typical situation as far as work search. Now, could that change? Could they say, let's say we get into September, October, and everything is pretty much back up running normally. At that point, they may say, okay, we're going to start taking work search more seriously going forward. I do not believe that they will be examining the point from, let's say, March 1st through certainly where we are currently, and I can't imagine through the summer, where they're going to take any work search investigations. I don't think they're going to undertake those. They've made it pretty clear that they are waiving the work search requirements. Again, it may still be on the forms. The law certainly is that they can go back and look at it. But those were the laws. That's what was written, prior to all of this happening. So again, information is always subject to change. They could always come out with a new interpretation. They could always say, we've heard that there's been massive waste, fraud, and abuse, so we are going to go do investigations. I don't think that's going to happen.
Understood. Yeah, there's still some questions on this, the work day and, things that are around it. So someone asked, final clarification, if I have a closing on Friday, it negates that week for benefits because it's over $504, let's say, right? Or does it negate just that day for benefits?
So let me start with the second part. It would count as 1 day of work for that week. As far as the money goes, that depends on what is, the commissionable event. Is it the closing? Is it the contract? When are you getting paid on the commission? So if you have a particular situation you want to email me about, that may be the best way to handle some of these questions.
Closing day is what he said. So that would be the day.
Closing day, okay. Then I would say, again, is it income from self-employment, or is it, because again, if you're classified as self-employed, you would answer that question differently.
Okay. I'm just reading through some of it. Why does it say excluding earnings from self-employment? I think we've covered that. I know I'm like 20 minutes behind on these questions because it just took time for you to answer, question and answer. Let me see.
I've got one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Somebody who's going to be having surgery in July and really won't be working for about 2 weeks. Can they still certify?
Sure. So in that case, what I would say is you may not be eligible for unemployment because you would not meet eligibility criteria of being ready, willing, and able to work, because you wouldn't be ready or able to work in that situation. So you may not qualify in that situation. Again, do you have access to disability insurance? for that period of time? Do you have access to any type of leave benefit? I don't know that, but if you are not capable of working, if you are not ready, willing, and able to work, you generally are not eligible during that period.
Cool. Let's see. There was another one I just saw. A good question from Candy Greg. Does the $600 per week get taxed?
Yes, I believe it does.
All right. Do we need to decertify when we are back to work, or just stop calling to certify each week?
You just stop calling to certify.
Is training considered work?
Yes.
Is there a waiting period before they start paying?
So typically, unemployment has a 1 week waiting period. And the state said, well, we're going to waive the 1 week waiting period. Well, then they got overwhelmed with claims, and it didn't matter that they waived it. They just simply weren't able to keep up with the claims. So technically speaking, you may have to wait once you get approved, but you will receive payment that's backdated to when you file.
Okay. This is Mary Valone asked a specific question to those consolidating. Remember when you were talking about, pick 2 days, a Tuesday and Thursday, do all your work on those 2 days so the other 3 can be claimed. So try to condense your work into 1 or 2 days and claim those 1 or 2 days as work, then claim the dollars received when you actually paid your commission. They are 2 separate questions. This would work, correct?
Again, so on the first part of the days, that what you just described is correct. On the commission payment, it's going to depend on the commissionable event and then your particular situation with, are you, considered self-employed?
Very good. Just make sure. Again, what is the minimum hours worked to claim a work day? I just want to make sure we answer that.
Yeah, again, there is no minimum.
All right. I want to make sure that was clear. There was no number there.
I do have one, Pete.
Okay, go
from
ahead.
Linda. It says, I work a second job and earn $100 a week. Do I claim I worked 1 day?
Yes. So what you would do in that case is you may be eligible for partial benefits. So you would claim the 1 day that you work, and you would put in whatever your earnings were, and then you would earn partial benefits based on that. But again, if you're earning partial benefits now, you're still going to get the $600 on top of those partial benefits through the end of July. So that's why I encourage, even if you're working 1 or 2 days a week, I still encourage everybody for this period of time to file for unemployment and certify weekly, because even if you're only collecting the minimum amount of PUA, you will get $600 on top of that.
And that does make, that also means that you only worked 1 day at the second job. But if it was a part-time job, say 4 hours 1 day and 4 hours the next day, then it would have to be 2 days, correct?
Right. That would be 2 days of work, and she would be eligible for 50% of her regular benefit.
Follow-up question to the taxable part of it. Is there a way to go back and from Joan Morrow, is there a way to go back and have the state take out money for taxes, or are we responsible to set aside money for that?
That is a good question. Let me.
You stumped him, Joan. Good job.
Well, while he's looking that up, we are hitting just about noon. So we do need to wrap it up. We will, like I said, we are recording it. Beginning probably won't be too well, but maybe some of the other questions later on will end up working out for everybody.
Yeah, I'm going to edit out that section, that 4 minutes of quiet, so that at least you can speed through that part.
Sure.
So it looks like you do have the option to have those taxes withheld, but what I would say is that
Leslie Bardick
yeah,
said you can change that withholding right in the portal.
I believe it's Form W4V
W4V.
from the IRS, but
Yep. All right. Well, it's noon, ladies and gentlemen, and I know you probably got other things to do, and hopefully we answered a good number of questions. Paul has offered his email address. So for those who are still struggling with getting some answers, we really thank you, Paul, for offering your email, allowing our members to reach out and ask these specific questions to you. It's extremely important that we get you all feeling like comfortable and hopefully back to work sooner than later, but at least getting you whole on some of the money you deserve through these benefits. And, just reach out to Paul. And if you, as members, remember, call us, tell us, reach out to Annette, tell her, do we need to do another one? Or is there more information you might need to request? We're here to answer those or try and connect y'all. So thank you, Paul, for your time today.
well, thanks so much, everybody. And again, my apologies for the connection issues at the beginning of the webinar.
No worries.
Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day and stay safe
Thanks,
and
everyone.
healthy.